This is for educational information purposes only. My website is TIRESIASTRADING.com. I've got some additional disclaimers on there. And let me just summarize the fourth paragraph, guys. This is futures. If you haven't figured it out by now, it's very dangerous. So make sure you understand what you're doing. Make sure you learn, and that's what events like this are about. So our event tonight, guys, 10 things I wish someone had told me before I started trading. Now, this is a serious event, but I'm going to have a few lighthearted stories from my first year of trading. And just to tell you a little bit about me, so I've been in the business of trade education for, I want to say about 6.5 to 7 years now. I've worked for small trading education firms. Just recently, up until about a little over a year ago, I worked for the education arm of one of the major brokerages out there, and went through all the vetting process for that. So that was pretty extensive. And just this past January of 2022, I started my own company, and it's just me, and that's very freeing to be able to go about what I do and not have to worry about, too much from the legal point of view or too much from the marketing point of view. I'm so used to putting everything through both a lawyer and a marketing specialist. And so to be able to craft my own message is very exciting. You see my email address down there at the bottom, guys. You're welcome to reach out to me with any questions. One thing you're not going to see at the end tonight, guys, I don't have a sales pitch or anything like that. I'm just going to tell you how to reach out to me. And if you're interested in working with me or doing some coaching with me or anything like that, I will tell you how to reach out to me for that. But that's not what this event is about tonight. But again, Matt at TIRESIASTRADING.com. You're welcome to reach out to me with any questions you have about any programs that I offer. I don't do pre-made video courses and all that kind of stuff, guys. I do have some that include them and other stuff, but I am all about the mentorship and the one-on-one coaching. That's how I believe this business should be done. So what are you going to hear tonight, guys? Well, we're going to talk about the 10 things, right? We're going to talk about seeking out the right kind of education, and I just teased that a little bit, right? And talked about how did I become a successful trader, right? Because too much in this business, somebody like me learns a certain way, and then we try to teach another way, right? And it's just, I'm going to give you a few pointers just for seeking out the right type of education. Guys, I'm going to talk just briefly about how I use BluSky, because I probably use it a little differently than you guys. But it's something that I can tell you right now, and I've only been in a couple of eval accounts for a couple of weeks. I'm enjoying it. I'm using it to test out extra strategies and things like that. Again, I'll get a little more into that later. So it is time. I hope everybody is ready. It looks like we've got a pretty full room here to go over the 10 things I wish somebody had told me when I first started trading. Guys, number one, and these aren't numbered, nor are they really all that, importance. They're all important. Guys, I'm going to hate to break this to you, but if you're starting today, you're not going to be trading from a mansion in 6 weeks, right? There's a disclaimer to this. There's a little asterisk, right? Unless you're trading from a mansion now. And if you are, let me know. I'll come down there. We'll hang out on your balcony and we'll trade together, right? I'm assuming if you have a mansion, you probably have at least one balcony. But guys, this is the mindset that a lot of us get into it, right? Now, I've worked as you saw, I've worked with over 200 traders one-on-one, thousands of traders, live events like this. And I would estimate, in fact, I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday, almost 80%, and I'm part of this 80%, right? 80% of all traders, okay? And guys, I have the chat off to the side. I will answer questions. Try to keep most of your questions to the end, but if I miss something, just restate it or email me afterwards. But about 80% of all retail traders came into this business on a marketing email or a Facebook ad from somebody who's probably posing in front of a Lamborghini, whether it's theirs or not, or a private jet, whether again that's real or not. This is how a lot of us came into it, right? Because this is the reach that these individuals have, right? And they are not selling success in trading. They're selling a lifestyle, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, right? But at the same time, and you'll see some more of these things tie in as I get further into this list, but it's not about making a ton of money. Yes, that's why we're here. If you're not trying to make money, you shouldn't be in trading, right? Okay, so I don't want to minimize that. But if your whole day is geared around, boy, I can't wait to buy that Lambo, or I can't wait to do that, and your focus is not on your day-to-day trading, on the process of trading, then you're probably going to have a rough time. Now, again, I'm not exempting myself from this. I came into this business of retail trading. I'll spare the name of the individual, but one of those marketing emails, right, talking about how this guy made $100,000 in a single day, right? It took me several years before not only I regained what I initially lost in my first year of trading, but to get to the point where then I could say that I was a six-figure trader, right? So here I'm coming in expecting, hey, month or two of learning, I'm gonna be cranking out those six-figure, trades, this and that, right? I was literally that arrogant, as a lot of us are, and I got a really big wake-up call. So again, if your goal is to, if you're a single younger guy or gal, and you're, you're not thinking about, some of the things you think about when you get to be a little bit more my age, you're thinking about, hey, the Lamborghini, the mansion, all this kind of stuff, that needs to be set aside. If that's your end goal, great. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your winnings. Okay. But at the same time, that cannot be what drives you day to day. Falling in love with the process of trading is what gets you there, right? Your mindset going into every single day and every single trade should not be, this is the trade that's going to make me rich, right? That's not the mindset and the mentality that you need to have on a day-to-day basis. So here's one of my biggest axioms of trading, guys. When it's done right, trading is simple, but it's not easy. Okay. If you don't have sleepless nights, if you don't have times of just crippling self-doubt, and if you don't have those losses that feel like you got slapped across your face, I don't care if they're real, simulated account, eval account. If you've never had one of those, you're not a trader, because we all have those. We usually have all of those on our first day trading, right? That is what we go through on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And guys, let me share with you one of the great secrets of trading. I'm just shy of 10 years into being a full-time trader, right? I still have days like that, right? As I'll share a little bit later as we progress, I've had some major things going on outside my trading life that have not let me focus as much on the day-to-day trading this calendar year so far. Finally, by next week, I'm going to be getting back to some sort of a normal schedule. Yeah. Yes. How's that? Yeah, we'll give everyone just a quick 30 here, see if they can get in. All good? Everybody good? Those that were having trouble, are you good now? Great. Yeah, apologies, guys. I've never done one of these events in a Discord channel like this before, so we're all still kind of learning, right? All right, beautiful. So let's keep going. This is only number 2 here, so you didn't miss much. We can go back and take a look at what we missed. But trading is simple, but it is not easy. Okay. My trading style, and this is why I work best with beginning traders typically in their first 2 years of trading who have yet to become at least profitable on the scale that they like, is the strategies that I work with are very simple. Most of what I do in futures is VWAP based. Okay. And I'm looking at, so if I'm trading the ESNQ, I'm looking for a bounce off a certain level or a move through a certain level. All I'm looking at then is things like the ticks, the ADD, the VIX. I use Bookmap to help me find little pockets of liquidity, right? So it's not like I'm using this super complex formula that, I saw a guy once that has like this interactive Excel spreadsheet that like shows green or red based on this. He's got like, well, if this is green, but this is red, but then you got to look at E6 and then you got to go up to C7. And if those are magenta, then you go short. But if it's fuchsia with a slight hint of green, you you guys understand what I'm saying, right? It's very easy to overcomplicate this. And listen, for somebody who has a spreadsheet like that or has all these different variables, if they're successful, more power to them. But I'm a KISS trader. Keep it simple, stupid, right? I tend to think of myself as a fairly smart dude, but most of the rooms that I walk into, I'm not the smartest one there, right? So I have to be able to keep things very simple and just play the probabilities, right? That's all we're trying to do. When you hear somebody talk about finding an edge in trading, all it is the probabilities, right? And there are a lot of successful strategies that if you can find a nice 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1 risk reward, which is typically about where I am in my day-to-day futures trading, usually a little closer to 1.5, you don't even need to be successful on 50% of those trades to make a consistent profit, right? I can tell you this from experience, guys. Find one of those things like in the ES, making 12 handles, risking 8 handles to make 12, risking 10 handles to make 15. You do that and hit on 50 to, I think I'm a little closer to 53% over the course of the past year, and you hit on that. That's how you grow your account. Okay, going for these, swinging for the fences every time you're up there. Jose Canseco's don't last long in this game, right? We want more of the Tony Gwynns for those of the baseball fans, right? Just going up there, looking to put the ball in play, looking to find the gaps and hit those singles and doubles. Yeah, you're going to hit one over the fence every now and then. That's a product of good trading, but you have to be able to allow yourself to hit one over the fence without striking out a whole lot. So I don't want to mix too many sports metaphors in case some of you guys aren't sports people, but you understand kind of what I'm getting at with that. And just to illustrate this point, guys, you're not going to learn how to successfully trade in 1 or 2 weeks. That's if you're starting today and you're saying in 3 weeks I'm going to be a competent trader. That's just not how it works. And that leads us into our next point, guys. The process of learning to trade resembles learning a trade with a similar timetable. This is not to say you can't make money in trading fairly quickly. I'm not here to say, well, it's going to take you this much to learn it. Everybody's timetable is different. Guys, I've worked with people that get it in about 3 or 4 months and they start becoming fairly consistent. I've worked with people that it takes 2 to 3 to 4 years. Okay, I'm not here to say what your timetable is. Unless I've talked to you individually, worked with you during one of my coaching sessions, it's really tough. And even with that, it's tough to project, right? But I always use the analogy of somebody like an electrician, right? If you start becoming an electrician tomorrow, you're not going to be wiring somebody's house in 2 weeks, right? At least I'm not letting you in to wire my house, right? You're going to learn the classroom stuff. You're going to be an apprentice. You're going to learn from people that have done it and done it successfully for a long time. And then finally, you're going to go out on your own. Okay. Again, that's not to say you can't find some profitability early in your career, but to have that consistency, I can almost guarantee is going to take longer than a year, if not longer. Okay. And that's okay. We are in this for the long haul. I always say with my clients, and I have with my mentorship program, guys, I screen my clients. Okay. There's an application process, all of that. And one of the first things I'm always going to, what's your timetable? Right? Because even if you're somebody who's 60 years old, good Lord willing, you got another 30 years on this earth, right? I'm not interested in working with 1 or 2 year traders, okay? I want to work with 10, 20, 30 year traders. So we're trying to get you as far as we can in that time, right? And if you really think about it, guys, with the amount of money that you can make in this game, and I'm not going to name any numbers and get unrealistic expectations, okay? But if you're somebody who said, I want life-changing money, gosh, isn't it worth a couple of years of putting in the hours and grinding a little bit to get to that point? Now, it's scary because there's no guarantees, right? And there isn't, guys, there isn't a magic strategy. I can tell you that very, very very clearly, okay? There is no hurry. It's going to take as long as it takes. Now, I hope it takes you a very short time, and part of the reason I do what I do is to cut people's learning curve sometimes in half, sometimes more. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I'm going to have you profitable in 2 months, or you're going to be making money in 8 weeks. That's just, anybody who tells you that is only interested in selling you something, whether it's a product, a service, and not interested in truly seeing you succeed. Okay. And again, I was like that because my gateway to this business was some of those individuals and some of those commercials, and some of those ads. Right. And I always really like to tie this into my next point, guys. You're running a business. Okay. Yes, your business is trading. You are a trader, but guys, you are running a business. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. Here's a great mental exercise that I always use with people. Okay, especially with new clients. So I'm gonna give this one to you guys gratis, right? So one of the first mental exercises I'm going to do is, now this is a little different, guys, because obviously this is, obviously Blue Sky's funds traders. So you guys are, most of you, at least in theory, are working to get a funded account through them rather than trading your own money. Okay. So but let's just pretend all the money you're going to spend with Blue Sky, with coaching, with all this kind of stuff. Let's say it's 10 grand, right? Let's just say it's 10 grand for S's and Googles. Okay. If a buddy of yours came up to you tomorrow and said, hey, I've got a business idea for you. And this guy's, let's say this is somebody you trust, right? This is a successful business person. This isn't like your uncle who's always asking for money, or your buddy who has failed out of 3 careers, right? This is somebody successful. They come to you and say, hey, I got this business opportunity and it's going to cost 10 grand. It's going to cost exactly what you have in your trading account or the money you've allocated for trading. And you're like, oh, that's a good idea. What's the first thing you're going to do at that point? Okay, this sounds good. What's your business plan? Let me see your business plan. Okay, you're going to want to know, how are they going to spend your money, right? You're going to know how is your return going to come back? And guys, again, what I do with every new client that I work with is I make sure they have a business plan. Now, yes, you don't need business plan and like you're opening a restaurant. Don't ever get into the restaurant business, guys. Thankfully, I've stayed out of it, but I have a couple friends that have invested in some restaurants in the area. Boy, you want to talk about razor thin? I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. But anyway, whatever it is, I don't care if it's a restaurant, a auto detailing place, whatever the case may be. You're going to want a business plan. You're going to want a SWOT analysis. If nobody's familiar with that, SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Right? And so how are you, the money that you have, okay, let's say you have 5 grand, you say, I want to become a successful trader with 5 grand. Okay, so you say, okay, I'm going to get 2 eval accounts with Blue Sky, and I'm going to budget in, let's say, 3 or 4 resets per account. Over the course of 3 months, you're adding all that up. Okay, I want this little package of coaching with Matt. That's a few $100. Okay, so we're going to do that. I also need this indicator that really helps with my trading style. So that's $100 a month, or whatever the case may be. Right? There's $10 a month indicators. There's $10,000 a month indicators. But you're going to budget all that out. If you haven't done that, guys, it's Thursday. Do that this weekend. Seriously, sit down. The Small Business Association has a bunch of business plan templates on their website. You don't need an executive summary or all that kind of stuff, but you need to treat this like a business. You need to treat this like, you're opening a storefront somewhere, because that's what you're doing. That literally is what you're doing. And as an aside, guys, once you become a successful trader, you can look into LLCs and tax benefits. I'm not qualified to talk on that, but I can just tell you from experience, once you become consistently successful in this business, very worth a call to either a business attorney or like a tax accountant or something like that, to begin to find ways to to keep as much of your money as possible. But that's neither here nor there. So COVID restrictions. That's a great example, Dying Star, of the type of things that you need to keep into consideration, right? All right. So again, if you haven't, that's your homework. If you haven't done a business plan, and guys, it doesn't matter if you've never done it before or not. Just sit down and think about your strengths as a trader, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, a budget, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Here's another thing in this business that drives me up a wall. Everybody talks about their gains. No one talks about their losses. A lot of my clients will tell you that if they didn't like these events or these other things that I do, if they just worked with me in some of the one-on-one coaching that I do, or some of the stuff that I've done in the past, they probably think I'm a horrible trader, because I spend about 75% of my time talking about trades that I lose rather than I win. Why is that? Well, not to say you can't learn from your winners, right? You can, because when things go well and you do things that are right, you should learn from those. But I have so many, especially in my first 2 years of trading, I have so many examples of stupid trading, right, that I'm able to, empathize with somebody who comes to me and say, boy, my position size was screwed up there. And I can say, okay, I understand that. Here's something I did that's stupid once too, right? There's, and guys, I hate to keep harping back on the same points, but you can go to if you're like me, I try to stay abreast of what's going on in the education business. So I have a dummy email account that's subscribed to all the garbage that you say out there, right? And so I'm constantly saying, okay, well, what are people teaching? What are they looking at? What are they, what are clients looking for? That's part of my business plan for the education side of things, right? And it's just amazing to me that everybody talks about, how I made $500,000 in six. Oh, okay, that's great. But what was your max drawdown? Right. It's one of the reasons, actually, I really like the evaluation period with BluSky. Right. You have a max drawdown. Okay. So, that's going to, by the very nature of those rules, that's going to teach you, not to take huge drawdowns. There's so many, I've worked with so many what we call yo-yo traders over the years, right? I worked with somebody who every single month either made 5 figures or lost 5 figures. Okay. Usually about 10 to 15 grand. And so by the end of the year, the guy was red by about 10 grand after making, thousands of trades, being up this much, being down this much. But your losses are what drive your profits, right? When you can cut down on those losses, right? I have very specific trade management rules that I have. And I alluded to it a little bit in the room the other day, where as soon as I get into a trade, I know exactly where my stop loss is going to be, and I know exactly where my partial profit target is going to be, right? Because, for example, if I have 10 micros on the ES, right, and I'm risking 10 to make 15, right? At least on that initial stop. And let's say, boom, my profit target gets hit. I'm out of 50% of the position. So I'm out of 5 contracts. I got 5 more. 9 times out of 10, the very first thing I'm going to do when those contracts execute, I'm going to pull my stop up to break even on the other 5, right? So what I call risk out. I'm risk out at that point. All right. So, but how I talk about my losses and how I manage my losses is why I see a steady increase in my accounts, in my trading over the years, right? Because I'm able to successfully manage your losses. That should be the first thing any new trader learns, right? When they finally get into trading, you learn how to manage your losses. Okay. You're going to be able to stay in the game a long time. Okay. So think about this. And I like to say this, there's 2 steps. There really is only 2 steps to becoming a successful trader. Step 1, don't blow up your account. And step 2, keep learning. Right now, yes, you can break those down into a lot of different setups, right? A lot of different subtopics to number 1 and number 2, but that really is it. Okay. And so whether you're in a BluSky eval account, whether you're working with some of your own money, whether you're like me and doing both, managing your losses is what keeps you in the game. Okay. You blow out your account, well, you're not in the game anymore. Okay. And I have worked with people that everyone says, oh, I've got more losses than you've ever heard of. I'm always like, try me. Because I've worked with people that have blown out multi-million-dollar accounts. And yes, some of them had other multi-millions to fall back on. Some didn't. I've worked with people that have nearly blown up their entire fortunes. Okay. So I've heard all the stories. I can almost guarantee there's nobody in this room that has lost as much money as some of the people I've talked to. Probably not even close. But it's all about the losses when you're first starting and learning how to manage those losses. Okay. And guys, I know, especially like with the eval accounts with BluSky, and everyone's racing the 30-day clock, right? I can tell you, you're better off not racing that clock and just, understand I'm going to be paying for 2 or 3 months of this, maybe a couple of resets before I go from there, but I'm going to learn good habits. So if and when you get a funded account, or if and when you're trading some of your own money, you understand, the guy that started with $10,000 and ends the year with $9,000 is still in the game. The guy that lost all 10,000 of it isn't, right? He's got to go in the savings, or he's got to go do this, right? Or he has to violate the very first rule of trading, which is never put a dime in your brokerage account that you can't afford to lose. Okay. So everyone talks about their gains. No one talks about their losses. Guys, this is a big one. You are going to have to overcome almost constant negative feedback and not become a negative thinker, right? Because of the reasons we've already talked about. When you first start in this business, you're getting a ton of negative feedback, right? And this can be in trading, right? Losing trades, or somebody telling you, you're not going to be successful, right? I talked with a woman about 3 years ago. It was one of those heartbreaking conversations I ever had as a trading coach. And I don't know how old she was. I probably mid-20s or something. Who said, I'm really excited about this. I'm starting trading, but I can't tell my family about it because they would mock me. I've talked about it a little bit in the past, and they've told me how dumb it is to get into this. Right now, she was with the last company I was with, and obviously I can't talk to clients once I switch companies, so I don't know what the end result of that was. But I think about her a lot because that's really unfortunate to me. I was fortunate enough to grow up with a very supportive family, and as I made a very perilous career transition into a trader, and then into the education side, I've had family, I have friends that have always been very supportive. Okay, but at the end of the day, even with those supportive family and friends, you got to drive yourself, right? You got to be disciplined in what you do day to day, discipline in your trading, and you have to stare in the face of near constant negative feedback and not become a negative thinker. And guys, the negative feedback's never really going to stop, right? Yes, when you begin to become successful, it's a lot easier to brush that off. But the negative feedback of a losing trade is going to be with you your entire career. Okay. The market's going to tell you when something isn't working. You have to learn to accept failure and accept and admit you were wrong. Guys, every trade, I know you can finish with an exactly even trade, right? But 999 out of 1,000 trades, especially once you figure in commissions, don't end break even, right? So every trade for those purposes is either a winner or a loser. You either right or wrong. Okay, well, obviously, I needs to go. It goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. We seem to be becoming more and more of a culture where, and you see this in politics, you see this in sports, you see this where admitting you're wrong is looked at as a sign of weakness, right? Where you, as opposed to saying, "Gosh, I was wrong. I apologize. Let's move on," right? So if you're sitting there saying, "Well, I'm a good trader," guess what? You're either a profitable trader or you're not. Okay, that's what I love about this business. This is at the end of the day, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, you're profitable, you're not. End of discussion, end of story. Okay, now if you're not profitable, you can get there, but you can't sit here. I had a guy that I worked with that lost 6 figures over the course of a year. It's like, no, I'm a good trader. My strategies just aren't working for the market. I'm glad I wasn't on camera at that moment because I had to pick my jaw up off the floor before I responded. And I try to be very positive when I'm doing my coaching, guys, right? But I have no trouble telling somebody when, no, it's just not working, right? Again, what's the very definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, okay? So just keep that in mind. You're going if you're just starting in this game, you're going to get a ton of negative feedback. If you've been in this game for a few months, maybe you've gone through a few months, you've paid for a couple of resets, or maybe you have some money of your own, you've lost. That's okay. You just have to understand that some part of that negative feedback is always going to be there. Okay, but you cannot become a negative thinker. You can't go into trades expecting to lose because you're going to end up creating a self-fulfilling prophecy and you're going to take dumb trades. Again, trust me, I know, I went through it. Okay. Guys, ask questions. Ask questions, no matter how basic or stupid they seem. I've run live trading rooms over the years, right? I do once weekly for some of my mentoring clients now, but I always have a policy. I said, I don't care how basic, how stupid the question seems to you, ask it. Okay, if somebody says something to you in the room, I'll deal with them, right? It's like, how could you ask that? That's dumb. No, I'll deal with them. Don't worry about it. I'm going to answer your question, then I'm booting the other guy out of the room, right? You've got to ask questions, okay? I could draw a direct correlation between the number of questions somebody asks me during a session and how well I think they're going to do in trading over the course of a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be. Closed mouths don't get fed. Unasked questions don't get answered. Okay, so one of the things that I really like about Blue Sky is this Discord channel, right? Some days we're a little busier than others. Some days we got some things to share. Some days we don't. But guys, that or any other trading community you're a part of, okay, really latch on to that. I have a whole other presentation that we're not going to do today, guys, but it's my 3 pillars of successful trading. 1 is strategies, 2 is mentorship, and 3 is community. And I've yet to meet a trader that can be successful without all 3 of those. Now, they take different forms, right? A community or mentorship, those can take any of a dozen different forms. Okay. So again, that's just don't ever be afraid to ask a question. All right, guys, here comes one of the magic ones. Ready? Process over profits. Okay, I've actually reworded this one, but this slide used to read, the dollars don't matter. Okay, I want to reiterate something I said a few slides ago. We are here to make money. You are watching this presentation right now, hoping, and I hope as well, that something I say helps you along your trading journey, or maybe this starts a business relationship where I'm helping you at some point, right? But we're here to make money. So I don't want to minimize that. But at the same time, it is the process, the day-to-day process is what is going to lead to profits, right? In my previous career, and this is why I relate very well to retail traders. I don't have any formal financial training, guys. I was a sports management major when I went to college. I had a business minor, right? So I took an accounting and a finance class, and I didn't pay attention. I think I got C's in both of those, right? So I don't have that formal financial education. Okay. What I do have is an understanding of the process that it takes to become really good at something. My last career, if you would ask me when I was 21 years old, what do you want to be doing? I wanted to be a college basketball coach. Okay, I've coached various sports. I had a little sister that played a lot of sports, coached some of her teams, AAU teams, all this stuff from the time I was 14 years old until I ended my at least sports coaching career about 10 years ago, right? So I've worked with Division I athletes, I've worked with Pee Wee soccer players, right? And one of the things that really stuck with me was for those of you that when you're in college and you want to be a basketball coach, one of the things you do is you travel around in the summer working various camps and networking with coaches and so one of the places I was at was Wake Forest. Gorgeous campus for those of you that live in that area. If I didn't go to the school that I ended up going to, I probably would have gone there because I loved it so much. But anyway, there's so I'm working the basketball camps there, and they're outside of Wake Forest locker room. There's these big posters, okay? And there's two of them of Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan went there. And the first one is him holding up the NBA championship trophy, right? And he's got his game uniform on, holding up the trophy. And it said, "This is not what makes a champion." And I forget the exact wording, so if I'm wrong, but this is not what makes a champion. The next poster is him in his practice uniform, bent over with sweat pouring off his face, right? So he obviously just got done working his tail off in practice. And it says, "This is what makes a champion." And it's the same thing in trading, guys. It's your day-to-day process. It's a process of meticulously journaling every single trade. Okay. It's the process of knowing, I have, and this is actually a challenge that I've been working on as I've, gotten these eval accounts and I've begun to trade them, right? I've had to rearrange some of my workflow. I'm used to now, for going on 3+ years, if I'm getting into a specific, like I said, most of my trading is VWAP based. Let's say I'm doing a specific type of trade. My eyes go, and obviously I'm not on camera right now, so you can't see, but my eyes go to one part of one screen, then it looks at the chart, then it looks at the dome. I check out Bookmap to see areas of liquidity, make a decision on the trade. So I've had to rearrange a few things. So like my muscle memory and my mental muscle memory, as I call it, has needed to change a little bit. But I follow a very specific process to get into a trade. I follow a very specific process to manage the trade once I'm in it. And the instant that trade is closed, assuming I don't have anything else imminent, trade's closed, I'm going to look at everything. I try not to do more than 2 active trades at a time, guys, just to divide my attention. And most times it's just one at a time. As soon as the trade's done, okay, nothing's imminent, boom, I'm in my journal, I'm copying and pasting charts, I'm copying and pasting this, and I'll go back and look at it at night, right? That's one of my things I do every night. I'll sit down, I'm at my office now, obviously, I'll go home, I'll bring my MacBook with me, I'll flip it open, pull up my trading journal, and look at everything. And label things according to, okay, I made a mistake here. No, this was fine. Hey, I followed my plan. It didn't work, whatever, right? So I can truly evaluate how my day-to-day, trade-to-trade, all of that stuff went. Okay. It's percentages, guys. It's one of my mentors. One of my mentors, she just drilled this into my head because I got started as mostly a small cap stock trader, and then I transitioned into large cap options, right? It's percentages and consistent percentages that are what make you wealthy. Okay. And that's another distinction, guys. This isn't a slide here, but we're trying to be wealthy. We're not trying to get rich. All right. And if you don't understand the difference between those two, DM me at some point. I'll tell you. I don't want to go off on that tangent in this particular event, guys. Right. So it's process over profits. Again, if you're somebody who, and I'm sure some of you have dealt with this, right? Whether your regular account, your eval account. Boy, I made $800 today. Oh, I lost 600 the next day. I made 500 today, lost 700. Okay, again, that's what we call the yo-yo trading. And guys, that can be more emotionally exhausting than just losing, right? I can tell you, for me, and this is part of knowing yourself as a trader and understanding trading psychology and all that, right? For me, the trades that affect me the most, that really get in my head, are the winners that turn into losers, right? If I lose on a trade, let's say, boom, I'm like the ES. I'm in the, I'm catching the bounce at an ES at 3,900. It went down to 38, 90. Well, I'm out. Okay. That doesn't affect me. It's when it goes up, 10, 12 points, gets really close to my initial profit target and then runs against me. That F's with my head, guys. Those are the ones. Now, I have a mental process, again, process over profits, that I go through to try to not let that affect my next trade. But in all my years of trading, that is what affects me the most. Now, some of you, it's the exact opposite, right? Or some of you, you're selling too early, right? You sell what could have been a 20 handle win at 8 handles, right? And that happens to everybody, especially in futures, right? Um, but at the same time, that's something that you need to learn about yourself, and that's something that, again, keeping a meticulous trade journal is important. You can say, boy, I made $100 in this trade, but boy, did this one mess with my head, right? Excuse me. So that's something to really pay attention to. Okay, sorry. Okay, Phoenix, give me a minute. I'll get to that at the end. I want to get through this material. I know, so, but yes, I see your question. Thank you for highlighting me on that. I will get to that. We just have a couple more. Okay, keep evolving as a trader. Now, when I have clients that I work with, guys, and like I said, I am not a believer in. You've heard the religious phrase, "Man cannot live by bread alone," right? Traders cannot learn by video course alone. I'm not going to knock the people that are out there selling video courses. I've done it in the past. I've made some video courses for my site, right? I don't sell them a la carte. I don't sell them individually for the simple and sure, I'm costing myself some money there, I'm sure. But I am only going to do what I believe helps traders be successful. It's one of the benefits, guys, of being one. And I can promise you, I'm one of the very few out there, for all that they say. I'm not saying I'm the only one. There's probably dozens, but the vast majority of people out there that are in the education business make far more from education than they do from trading. I'm not one of those people. That's why I can be very choosy about the people that I work with, right? Because I just don't want, I don't like wasting my time. I don't like wasting your time. If I don't think something's a good fit, I'm going to tell somebody that, right? But one of the things that a lot of clients are very surprised when I start working with them is I don't immediately get into strategies, right? You have to have good strategy. You have to have strategies with a statistical edge. That's undeniable. But the reason that we don't get into that specifically is we need to build up the infrastructure of your strategies, right? I have, and again, this is a separate talk. I don't have time to get into this. Maybe we'll do this in a few weeks. But I have a 3-phase process that every single strategy that I trade has to go through before I put a single dollar into it. Sometimes that process takes 3 weeks. Sometimes it takes 6 months. It depends on the success rate. It depends on the variables and all of that. Okay, so my clients will hear, okay, we were working on this strategy. It's in phase 2 right now, but boy, it's not looking like it's going to make it out of phase 2. We might have to bring it back to the drawing board and adjust here or there, guys. I'll be honest, probably well over half, probably close to 65% of the strategies that I've put through this process over the past 10 years don't make it out. Okay, and that's another part of this. You've got to be willing to put a lot of time and energy learning things that, boy, you just may not use. But the reason we don't go into strategies right away is because they're not the most important as far as, not having an infrastructure for testing those strategies and evaluating those strategies. Because once you have that infrastructure, it's just plug and play with the strategies, right? Oh, I think this strategy, I learned this strategy from this guy, or I came up with this one on my own. Let's put it through the process, right? One of the best day traders I ever met, he was a stock day trader from Belgium. I met him in one of the in-person events that I used to do before COVID. And the best piece of advice, because I asked him, I said, man, what's your best strategy? Clue me in on this. And he was very secretive, which kind of irritated me, but that's a whole other thing. But he did say something that stuck with me. He says, listen, Matt, the trades that I'm taking today and the strategies, and he'd been about 20 years in the game. He was one of the original guys, working on terminals all those years ago. Said, I don't, every strategy that I use now, I wasn't using 5 years ago. And the ones I was using 5 years ago, I wasn't using 10 years before that, right? He says, it's all about evolving. Now, that doesn't mean, strategy's not working anymore. We can just tweak it, right? But go back and ask all the buy the dip bros how they did in 2022, right? You got to evolve. Okay, you've got to be able to say, you know what? This isn't working. And then you have to be able to accurately say, well, this isn't working because market conditions temporarily aren't right for it. Or boy, everything's just kind of caught up, right? I have a guy, a good buddy of mine that I worked with at the brokerage that I was telling you about. That he was nothing but a credit seller in options, right? For years, credit selling, made a lot of money in that. Well, he kept doing that last year. Now he's a smart guy, so he wasn't still doing it in June. But by February of last year, calendar 2022, he's going, well, this isn't working anymore. So now he does a lot of directional stuff, or does some credit calls as opposed to some credit puts. Okay. So again, he evolved. Now it doesn't mean you can't go back to, buy the dip is going to work again at some point, right? Maybe starting tomorrow, maybe 5 years from now. We don't know. Right. But that general strategy, bullish mentality, buy every dip, worked great from the COVID crash up until calendar 2022, then not so much. Everything in this business works until it doesn't. It's that quote from Anchorman, like 50% or 60% of the time it works every time. Trading's the same way. You're going to have a strategy that's going to be successful a lot until it's not. Okay? All right, guys, so I have one more for you, and then I'm going to talk just very briefly on a couple other topics, then I'll take your questions. Guys, you actually can do this. I mean, seriously, and I know this sounds stupid, and this is a little bit of old school Coach Matt coming out here, right? But I'm going to rah-rah you a little bit because, guys, you really can do this. Okay? Here's the thing, guys. I'm 6'1", and I'm 40 years old, and I'm a little overweight. I can't be an NBA center, right? If I woke up tomorrow and my dream was to be a center in the NBA, not gonna happen. Okay. I have pretty steady hands, but they're not very steady. I can't go be a surgeon tomorrow. Okay. I don't have the physical tools capable to do those things. But we do have the tools necessary to be a successful trader, because mostly they're up here. Well, you can't see me. I'm pointing to my head. You just got to train yourself to get there. Okay. So now, again, I literally have never worked with a trader that became successful, or talked to a trader that became successful that didn't doubt themselves. Gosh, there's still days where I struggle. Like the last couple of weeks have been rough for me because, again, I've been dealing with a lot of other things, and there's still times like, man, is the game passed me by? Well, no, it's just a matter of powering through some of those negative days and reminding yourself you can do this. Okay. A couple other quick things before we wrap up here. So I said, when I don't want to go off on a whole rant about education, guys, but let me tell you this, guys. As I've said before, I have yet to meet a trader that didn't have some combination of the 3 pillars of trading that I say: strategies, mentorship, community. Okay. And again, they take different forms, right? But at the same time, you need those things. I do not do a la carte video courses, guys. I do live trading for some of my mentorship clients, but I don't do a subscription live trading room. Why not? Why don't you do those things, Matt? You probably make a lot of money. Well, yeah, probably. But those by themselves are not how you learn how to trade. They can be helpful to a degree, right? Like watching somebody trade for a few weeks can be helpful to see their style. All right. But you're never going to be them. Like I always tell every one of my clients, you're never going to be me. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make as much, if not more money. But we all come into this with baggage, right? We all have mental baggage that we bring into trading. And until you're able to diagnose how that affects your trading and eliminate it as much as possible, right? Everyone says you can't trade with no emotions. Well, in my experience, that's impossible. But what you need to do is not let your emotions affect your day-to-day trading and your decision to get into trades and get out of trades. Okay. So let me just say, I'm not discouraging you from going and buying a video course or joining a live trading room. That's up to you. Okay. But I was not successful until I was able to find really 2 mentors who sat me down digitally. One was somebody who was a friend who helped me just out of the kindness of her heart. The other was somebody I worked with and then worked for a time. And until somebody was able to look over my shoulder and say, hey, what are you doing here? Explain this. Hey, that's a good idea. No, that's wrong. Right. And really grind that out with me is when I began to have successful, outcomes in my trade. So I will just say this, guys, before I open it up to questions, and then we'll let Josh hop on and do his giveaway. I'm not here for a sales pitch. If you think you might be interested in doing some work with me, and I have a very intensive mentorship program, guys. It's a pretty high ticket item. It's not cheap, but I do have what I call little packets of coaching that I sell that we'll work together for 2 or 3 hours during a trading day. Right, I'll screen share a little bit, then you screen share, and I'll kind of critique what's going on. We'll teach you some strategies. I have some other things going on. If you're potentially interested in that, DM me, just direct message me, and I'll send you the information on that sometime in the next couple of hours. Okay. I do not do options on futures, and I do want to go up to get this question really quickly. Oh, I'm sorry. I do want to say, guys, I got asked by actually one of my clients because when I first heard about the Blue Sky, because guys, I know these funded trader things have been around for a few years now. I'd never paid attention to them because I have the money that I need to trade, right? And I basically have my own kind of funded account that I scrape the winnings off of every month, right? But at the same time, these things for me, I was so excited when I learned a little more about this, and I've talked about Josh and Dave, because I had clients reach out to me, hey, do you know anything about these? Do you recommend? So I happen to be LinkedIn pals with these guys, which y'all are welcome to add me on LinkedIn if you want. But at the same time, these guys, so I talked to these guys and learned what they're all about. And I was like, oh, that's pretty impressive. Boy, that sounds like a great way to test out some of my strategies, right? I talked about that 3-phase process. So before, and so I sit here as a guy who's got 2 accounts. I don't know if any of them will ever be funded because I'm running, for me, the about 150 per month plus a couple of resets. That's a lot less money that I'd lose if a strategy is not successful than going and deploying it in my account, right? Last strategy that I ditched in my live trading account lost me about $4,000 over the course of a couple of weeks, right? As long as I stay at an eval, I'm guaranteed not to lose that, right? So I really encourage you just because you become, funded or you get enough money to do your own thing. Personally, you're probably always going to see me with an evaluated account or multiple ones, just because I think it's a really good way to evaluate strategies at a low risk. And guys, actually the way they do it, where you get a data feed and you get, I don't personally use NinjaTrader, but I used it in the past. It's a pretty good platform overall. Just some of the tools that I use work a little better. I use what's called Edge Pro X and Thinkorswim. It's that's really low cost, guys. I used to pay when I first started trading futures, I was with TradeStation. I used to pay about $150 per program, like for CME data, for CBOT data, for NYMEX, COMEX, all that stuff. And you get a rhythmic feed with all that included. So if you're looking to take the plunge, I highly recommend it. And again, I'm not an employee; they're not paying me to be here, so I'm just saying that because I don't plug anything that I don't A, personally use, or B, recommend. So that's just again one way that differs me a little bit from the other guys. So I do want to catch Phoenix questions. How would you overcome the psychological hurdles that come with being close to a psychological level, like a final game? I'm not 100% sure on your question there, but just let me say, everybody, there's certain mental exercises I work with. About 75% of what I work with my clients is trading psychology. Mark Douglas, his books, I highly recommend them. The Discipline. There was a book thread in one of the other channels a little earlier. Anything by Mark Douglas, or go to YouTube and just put Mark Douglas Trading, and he's got seminars in there. I highly recommend that stuff. It's so, I know there's very mechanical traders, especially like mechanical options based traders. They'll tell you trading psychology is junk. Well, not in my experience, right? So I keep track, especially when I was really first starting to become successful. I kept track of everything, guys. I kept track of how much coffee I drank in the morning or how much alcohol I had the night before. And I don't drink on weeknights anymore, but that was something. Okay, if I have that extra drink on a Wednesday night, or if I have 3 cups of coffee on Thursday morning, how does that affect me? And ultimately, it didn't end up having a huge. But I kept track of everything because I wanted to know, is there a correlation here? If you looked at my trading journal right now, and not a record of trades, my trading journal, or at the end of the week, I'll say, hey, I did this well. You'd think I'm the worst trader in the world because I only really record when I do something wrong now, which thankfully is not nearly as often as they used to be. But let's see, to answer the questions here, I don't use options on futures. What is my time frame? I'm always looking at a 1 minute and a 5 minute chart. on futures, and I do my structure on the hourly. So when I'm looking at the hourly at the end of the day, or I sit down at my desk usually about 90 minutes before the markets open. I'll go in and spend about 2 or 3 minutes looking at the hourly. I predominantly I really only trade ES, NQ, CL, and GC. And so I'll look at the hourly structure, but obviously, I spend a lot of time doing that on Sunday night, not as much by Thursday morning because I know the structure at that point. Do I use Bookmap to find zones? No, I really only use it to find areas of liquidity, right? So if I'm taking a long trade at say 39.05 and there's a huge, or I'm thinking about it, and there's a huge pocket of liquidity at 3900, that might scare me away from the trade, right? I have my process for trading, guys, right? I have a trade idea, and then I have what's called C or C's, confirmations or cancellations, right? So liquidity is one of those. So I don't need liquidity in my favor, I just don't want it against me. So again, if there's a huge pocket of liquidity right below where I'm thinking of going long, I'm probably going to let that liquidity get cleared off the books before I want to look at a trade there. Again, I can do 5 hours just on my process, and we don't have that kind of time. Okay, let me catch up here. While I'm doing these questions, Josh, you wanna hop on and do the giveaway? I don't know what you determined for that. The wheel of names. Yeah, I've actually used that in the past. No, actually, Bookmap's not scary when you learn how to. It's like every tool. Once you learn how to use it, you're fine. Oh, Josh, you want me to do this with these names that are in there, or do you got this? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Let me see. You just messaged me these, so let me pull that up. Okay, so here are the names. Wow. Okay, a lot of people. That's great. And then I'm going to stay for about 10 minutes after this, guys, and take questions. And then I've got to get out of here. So let me. All right, everybody ready? Let's click to spin. All right, whoever Young Fab is, I will let Blue Sky guys get in touch with you about all that. Thanks for coming. Hey, there you go, my friend. Congrats. Okay, so let me catch up on questions, guys. You got a free eval account there, Young Fab. All right, so let me catch up on the questions. Apologies there, guys. Okay, so here's a good question. So if I blew up over 300 evaluations, what should I do to fix myself? I blow up and then reset immediately and blow up again, and it's a never-ending process. So, Jim, and my answer to that question would be, if you're doing it that many times, you're probably not keeping an adequate trade journal, right? Or you don't have, again, I said this in the room the other day. You should have a plan for your trading, right? For every strategy, here's my plan, here's my risk reward, etc. If you're consistently losing, the plan is the problem, and you go back to the drawing board with the plan, or you scrap the strategy altogether. But if you're blowing up that much, then obviously it goes to without saying, something's not right. Okay, whether it's position sizing, whether it's tough for me to comment without seeing your trading journal. That's one of the first things I do with clients. If they have a journal, I'm going to take a look at it. With their permission, of course, and kind of go through bit by bit on that. Let's see. Is there a systematic process that you follow in trading during economic announcements? My systematic process for economic announcements is mostly to avoid them. And it's been an adjustment, right? Like when COVID was first going on, the economic stuff didn't matter. Earnings didn't matter. It was all about COVID numbers, hospitalizations, all that stuff, right? The market reacted to Cuomo's press conferences, right? Because that was out of New York, because that was sort of the harbinger of where everything was going. Now we're back to where it's really just inflation, right? But we're getting to the heart of earnings season, so we're going to see how this affects everything, right? So yeah, very tough process, but I tend to avoid those. In fact, I have my process when I know like FOMC announcements. My process is to close my trades and make sure I don't have any open orders. That's my process. Any other tips in addition to Mark Douglas? Simone, just stick with Mark Douglas to start with, and then we can branch out a little bit. Okay, other questions. Are you a scalper? No, I'm really not a scalper. I'm really looking at something like I use the example of risking 10 handles to make 15. That's kind of my sweet spot. Like I said, I'll do 8 to make 12 or something like that. But I'm not looking to get in at 3,900 and with 5 minis and scalp 3 points. That's just not. That's not. I'm not going to say somebody can't be successful doing that. But I would be very curious to see stats on like who's successful in the average hold time on futures for retail traders, right? So that's something that I would, yeah. I'm not a scalper. I'm not going to say you can or can't do that. I just the best day traders to me are the ones who guys again, maybe I'm just going to throw numbers out there, right? Instead of trying to make $100 here, $100 there. Okay, this trade makes you 50. This trade makes you 200. Well, I lost 100. Then you made 900. Okay, then you lost 200. Then you made 150. Right? Again, when you're swinging for base hits and being cautious about strike zone, you're going to hit one over the fence every now and then. Okay, that's part of trading. Okay, the idea is to, if you can have 50% of your trades be winners. And of the 50 that are losers, only 2% are big losers, right? But in your 50% that are winners, 10% of those are big winners. Now, again, it adds up. That's something I really try to work with with new clients, especially, is creating what I consider proper and appropriate expectations. For a newbie, is it better to start with MES? How many contracts? Well, position sizing is something I work very closely with clients on. Here's what I can tell you guys. I don't trade the minis. I would rather trade 25 micros than 2 or 3 minis, because then I can scale out of positions a lot easier. Now, yes, I know you have commissions involved in that, but as I've been saying now, outside of futures, especially in like stocks and options, we're mostly in a zero commission era now, right? But I've always told people, if your commissions are the difference between you being profitable or not, you're not profitable. Okay. I know it sounds harsh, but that's kind of really it. I have not worried about commissions or data fees or anything like that for a very long time. Now, it's not to say you shouldn't minimize it. If there's 2 platforms and one commission, 50 cents, open and close versus 40% open and close. If they're exactly the same, you go with the lower price. I'm not advocating not saving money, or somebody will say, oh man, this tool costs $150 a month. Well, you know what? Does it make you $150 a month? Bookmap does not make me a ton of money. It saves me a lot, because it's more of the liquidity's not there and I'm staying out of it. If that saves me on 2 trades, it's paid for itself. Really, it's paid for itself. It saved me on 1, right? All right. All right, guys. So I think we are an hour in. I think it is a good place to wrap up. So just two housekeeping things before I go. Number one, again, I wanted to do an hour presentation as opposed to do a 45-minute presentation and a 15-minute sales pitch. So if you're interested in learning kind of about what I got going on and if it may be a right fit for you, direct message me or email me, but preferably direct message me. I see a couple have already. And I'll send you some information on the very intensive high ticket course that I have, or just we work together during part of a trading day. That's probably a little more in people's budgets right now. But I can tell you what's involved in each of those, and we can see if it might be a fit for us to work together. I'd love to work with everybody in here. I think it's a really good community. It's just, we're just getting started. We're just growing, and I'm excited to be a part of the community as both a trader and a trading educator. So I hope that's helpful. The other thing is, again, any feedback that you have, either from, you're welcome to tell me or tell the Blue Sky guys. We did this as kind of a test balloon. If you guys like this event, you think you got some value out of it, there may be an opportunity for me to do some future events as well if it makes sense for everybody involved. So I'm always respectful of other people's time. I don't assume everything that I say is going to resonate with everybody, but if everybody is happy with that, I would be happy to come back and do some events in the future as well. All right. Okay, last question. What would you say is the biggest struggle for amateur traders? It's the mental game, Scuffed. It's the mental game. That's it. That's a three-word answer to probably a 10-minute question. But yeah, it's the mental game. So, all right, guys, I will turn this back over to yeah. Well, so again, my site is pretty vanilla. It's just www.TIRESIASTRADING.com. But I like the stuff that I offer. You can't my store page isn't. Again, I work with a handful of clients at a time. I only, if I get 5 bookings, like if 5 of you are interested in doing like the trade with me for part of a day thing, I'm going to shut it down for a few weeks because I don't I love working with people, but I don't do it all day, every day. Right. I spend most of my time trading because that's how I pay my bills. Right. Just between us guys, any income that I get from the education side goes into a vacation fund. So based on how tropical my vacation is, that's how well I did that year. So again, this really is a side hustle for me, but I love doing it. I love working with traders because I want to be the person that wasn't there for me my first year, and it took me a couple years to find. All right. So yeah, you can check that out. But if you're interested, direct message me. Okay. I'm not here. I'm not going to be that jerk that's cold messaging people or anything like that on somebody else's Discord channel. If you message me, I will message you back. And I'll send you some thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. I will send you some information. The thing I do during the day is pretty affordable. It's not outrageous. So all right. So, guys, I appreciate it. I'll turn it back over to Josh here. And everyone have a great rest of your day and have a fantastic weekend.